Hi, I'm Jaclyn.
And I'm Courtney, and this is Caffeinated Crimes.
It's a very rainy, yucky weekend here. I don't know
Hmm.
about Courtney, but it has just been
Yes.
awful weather. So sad. Couldn't take the dogs for a walk or play outside or anything. But my daughter, yeah, words. My my daughter did take a 2.5 hour nap yesterday, so she was feeling that rainy weather. So I will take
Yeah,
it for
she
that.
was feeling it. My cats are always more sleepy. I mean, also same, but whenever it's rainy, they're always like, we're not getting up. We're going to sleep today.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was yesterday in the afternoon. The sun did come out for a while. So that was kind of nice.
Mhm.
But so Kevin and I went on like a short walk and it was so hot, like
Yeah.
disgustingly humid. And yeah, this morning it's raining again. So, it's just one of those weekends. It's fine. You just need them sometimes to just like chill.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. I did get to read almost a whole book yesterday during that nice 2.5 hour nap. And then, my husband slept till 1 p.m. So when he did finally wake up, he was on baby duty for the rest of the day. So I got to just chill and relax because he's like, oh shit, I slept till 1 o'clock. Okay, let me take the baby to run errands. Yeah, you do that. That'll be good.
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, that'll be good. That'll be good. Yeah.
but yeah, that's the thing with these like summer storms. It's like when it does clear up and you're like, oh, I could go outside. And it's like, nope, it is so like you're just like breathing in
Yeah.
like a
Halfway
humidifier.
through the walk, we were both just like sweating and
Yeah.
like we did a bunch. Kevin's brothers at the day of this recording are coming into town
Mhm.
in like a few hours. And we have been trying to like deep clean the apartment and
Mhm.
I moved my entire desk setup downstairs so that I could have all my shit while they're here for a week and all that. And so we were just like up and down like the two flights of
Ugh,
stairs like nonstop.
yeah.
Basically, my legs hurt so bad today, in
Mhm.
addition to my workout where she did like
was
all
very
legs.
leg heavy. Yeah.
And so we were like sweating from that and we went on like literally a not even 20-minute walk and we're like we're sweating more now
yeah.
than when we were lugging all this shit up and down the stairs.
Because that's the thing with this weather in the South. It's like you can just sit outside and be soaked in sweat. Like you don't even have to be like
Hmm.
exerting any effort. And
Yeah, you just like breathe and it's like nope,
yeah,
not today.
it's a lot. Yeah, so now that you know all about our weather and how ungodly hot it is in the South this time of year, unfortunately we do have some more shooting updates because this is America and I don't even have any words anymore. I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
it's appalling and sad and it feels so hopeless because it's like when will anything ever change? And I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't
And
know.
you have people are so divided now more than ever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's like not even like a common ground.
No.
So it's like anything you think's gonna help, you have a huge array of people like pissed off about it. Like there's like no agreement, like there's no coming together. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, and maybe it just feels so divisive now because so much is happening,
Mm-hmm.
but like I feel like it's just so different than it used to be. It's
Yeah.
so there's such extremes. It's like we can meet a little bit in the middle here. Like we can scratch each other's backs a little bit here.
Yeah. Like I feel like when I was growing up, like there wasn't a lot of like discussion of politics because it was like rude, like you just like one of those things you didn't
Hmm.
discuss. But when it was discussed, I feel like people had like friendly debates about it. And it was like you could like
Yeah.
argue in a good natured way. And it's like you can't do that anymore. Like things are so divided that it's like eh, and I see the Facebook posts where people are like, oh, like you shouldn't just dismiss people who disagree with you. And it's like, well, it depends on what you're disagreeing about. Because like there are some things that it's like, no, if you disagree about that, like, yeah, I don't really want anything to do with you. Like, and we're talking about like
If
major
you're a
things here.
racist, this is not agreeing to disagree, which
Exactly.
is a
Exactly.
TikTok I've seen like a bunch of like if you're especially a white woman and your boyfriend is a racist, like you cannot claim to be an ally. You
No.
cannot claim like whatever. You can't. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Like you can't be all I'm gonna do like work for good, all that stuff. No, it starts in the fucking home and you're dating a
Hmm.
racist. Like,
Yeah.
sorry, honey.
It's like if you disagree on such a fundamental thing, like how can there be any kind of relationship there? I don't get it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so our first of two that we know of, I'm sure there were more across the country that did
Mm-hmm.
not make national news, but the two Fourth of July shootings that we do know of was the first one in Highland Park. So 7 people were killed and more than 24 were injured. Um, just in the middle of a fucking parade where everyone's celebrating this country for some unknown reason. And
that poor little 2-year-old, both his parents died. So now it's like, but I hope your rights to guns was worth it.
Yep.
There was also a shooting in Philadelphia. It seems less, from what I read, less like a mass shooting and more like a shooting that occurred. It was like 2 officers were shot. Like one grazed one of the officers. Like I think he said he found it like in his hat or his like helmet, like the bullet, which is like terrifying. But basically like there was gunfire. So of course people are running because look what happened earlier in the day.
Exactly.
And it's like while the fireworks were going off. So some people have videos from like a balcony where you see these fireworks going off in the background and people running in panic because this is America.
You know, Courtney asked me before we started recording if I'd seen any TikToks about this. And I said, no. I did see this one girl who was like walking home. I don't know if you saw hers. And like, she didn't even realize.
She didn't know.
Yeah. And like people were like running. And like this guy was like trying to get her to like go with him. And she's like, I'm not going to go with you. Like, and then he's taking off. And then she's like, watch him run. And like, she literally has no idea that she's like in the middle of the shooting happening. Yeah. There was also a shooting here in Richmond, 4th of July weekend, like a couple of days. I think it was like the 2nd or the 3rd. But it was like a domestic dispute. I guess there was like a court hearing and the ex-wife got custody. And so this guy like walked into a bar where she was and like shot her and like 4 other people. So,
my God.
Yeah. So I think it's she and I think her friend both died. And then I think like 4 people were injured. So. But
and like at what purpose do you serve that? Because now your children do not have a mother and you're sure as shit not getting custody. Now you fucking killed her.
Exactly. Like what, how?
I mean, I know I'm trying to think and I'm trying to have rational thoughts in an irrational mind. I get that. But like also I'm just like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
But like you said, hope you're right to own a gun is worth it because this is what we get now. And you know what, y'all, and I say y'all as in the people who are against any kind of gun reform. You don't give a shit about our reproductive rights. I don't give a shit about your right to own guns. Like, just, I don't care. Yeah. Anyway, do we have anything to bring this up before we take it way back down? Because I feel like we're just going right into a hole to begin with.
I'm trying to think if I have like a funny, I do kind of have a funny Kevin story.
Please, yes.
Okay. So we're going on vacation with his family the last week of July. And so it's where they used to go as kids a lot. And so he's like, oh, we'll probably go to this place and this place. And he was trying, this is what he said to me. He was like, make sure when you're packing, you bring a water outfit. Like he couldn't think of bathing suit. So
a water
outfit.
Like,
bring a water outfit. And it made me laugh so hard because he's like, I couldn't think of bathing suit.
Oh, Kevin.
And so I just tried to get there enough that you would know.
Figure out what I'm getting at. Wow, that is a very typical Kevin story.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And I was like, we're going to Virginia Beach for 2 days. Of course I'm going to bring a bathing suit, but thanks for reminding me.
You're like, if it has the word beach in the name of the city, I feel like I should bring some water outfits, but thanks for the reminder just in case.
Yeah. But we're going to be staying really close to Water Country, I think it's called.
Like a amusement park. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like Dollywood Splash Country for us local Tennesseans who relate everything to Dollywood or Splash Country like I do.
Yeah.
So but yeah.
Also a side note of funny things, I just hear in the background Andrew saying, no, don't eat that. Oh, are you hungry? So I'm like, I don't know what my child just ate off the floor, but he's like, oh, I guess it's snack time. Maybe I should feed you food. Oh, geez. Okay. So I am doing an espressode today. So Courtney has not heard this story. It's got a lot of twists and turns. So I'm excited to see what Courtney thinks of it. Yeah, it's an interesting one. So I did watch an episode of True Crime with Aphrodite Jones. Season 6, I did not write down the episode number. I don't know. Look it up. I forgot. And also an article from the Journal of Forensic Sciences and Criminal Investigation. So like an actual like research article. Yeah, pretty cool. So Ellen and Ed Sherman were a typical family on the outside. They lived in Niantic, Connecticut, and in August of 1985, they had been married for 16 years. They had one 13-year-old daughter, and Ellen was 5.5 months pregnant with their second child. The couple owned a graphic design studio where Ellen worked full-time and Ed worked part-time. Ellen was described as a smart and savvy businesswoman, and Ed was also a community college professor when he wasn't working for the business. And so while they seemed to have it all, this marriage would turn deadly in 1985. So Friday, August 2nd, 1985 was Ed's 42nd birthday. Their daughter was away at camp, so Ellen and Ed spent the day together alone. Ed was preparing to leave the next morning for his annual sailing trip with 4 of his friends. So he had owned boats for most of his life, and he looked forward to this trip every year. He was like the big guys, like every year, get together, go sailing. So his friend Roger Peterson picked him up at his house around 7 p.m., and they went to their friend Henry McDuff's house. So their plan was to drive to Maine and then pick up the boat they were renting, and then they would set sail the next morning just after sunrise. So they were going to sail the Cape Cod Canal and planned to be gone for 10 days, which I feel like is a very long sailing trip, but maybe I just don't know anything about sailing. So Ed called Ellen while he was at Henry's house to ask her to unhook the blige from the battery on his boat at home because he forgot. I don't know what that means, but a boat thing that he forgot to do. So we
do the boat thing.
Do the boat thing. So he called his wife from Henry's house that night and said, "Hey, I forgot to do this. Will you take care of this for me?" And then his friends remember joking around with him and giving him a hard time about making his pregnant wife go out and do the manual labor that he forgot.
So, yeah, it's like, okay, you're leaving me here for 10 days while I'm pregnant. Right. And now I have to do manual labor.
Now I have to go do this boat thing too. So the 4 men left the next morning, which was a Saturday, and started their sailing trip as planned. Sorry, I typed coat. Whoops, boat. Also, side note of a funny story. So I listened to the That's Messed Up SVU podcast, which is like the best podcast of all time. And she was reading her notes and she meant to put tape and she put rape. So she said they were listening to the rape and then she stopped and they were like, "Oh no, that's not right."
That's not right. That's not right.
She's like, "I think Google Docs autocorrected this because I type rape so much because this is an SVU podcast." And probably I thought it was really funny. And the other girl was like, leave it in. So Ed used the rodeo on the goat.
What a scene. A rodeo on a coat.
Wow, I need to get my life together. So Ed used the radio on the boat to have someone call to check in on Ellen later in the day after they set sail. So he didn't have it was 1985. He couldn't call her on like a cell phone, but he could radio in to someone somewhere on shore and ask them to check in, I guess. But he wasn't able to get a hold of her. But again, this was the 80s. No one had a cell phone. So he's like, I'm not too concerned. Like, she just must not be home because if you're not home, there's no way to get a hold of you. Also, she's like pregnant and her daughter's away at camp. So she's probably just out enjoying and relaxing and doing her thing. So
yeah, she's probably just sleeping.
All good.
That's what I would do. I would just sleep.
However, the next day, which was a Sunday, he still wasn't able to reach her. So we started to get concerned at this point. So he did reach out to some friends and asked them to go check on her. And so the next time he put in a call to the house, the Connecticut State Police answered. They informed Ed that Ellen had been found murdered in their bedroom. So they instructed him to set sail to the nearest Coast Guard station in Massachusetts and said they would meet him there.
So I do have one question. Yes. So when he called about the boat, did he talk to her or just leave like a voicemail?
He talked to her. According to who?
Okay, so he actually... What?
Just remove that question from your brain. Okay. Stop asking. Don't ask questions yet, Courtney.
That makes me think of, speaking of other podcasts on our podcast, This Podcast Will Kill You. Every time Erin's like, I knew you were going to ask that question. And I don't know the answer.
I love how she's like, I knew you were going to ask that. I have no idea.
Yeah.
So after being contacted by Ed, their friend and colleague, Lynn Fredrickson, had gone to the Sherman's house to check on Ellen. So when he got there was no answer at the door, and he did find that all of the doors were locked, but there was an unlocked window in the dining room, so he used that to enter the home. So Lynn reported that their bedroom was very cold when he opened the door, and that's when he found Ellen dead in her bed. She was naked and had been strangled face down in the sheets. Cause of death was ruled as both manual and ligature strangulation. And at first, they thought she had been strangled with her bra, but then the forensic scientist on the case noticed that her underwear actually matched the pattern that was left on her throat. So that's how they determined exactly what it was that was used to strangle her. The medical examiner said there were no signs of sexual assault. There were multiple semen stains on the bed, but they were not able to get DNA evidence from any of them. And the cause of death was estimated to be between 10 p.m. on Friday night and 8 a.m. on Sunday morning, which is a very big time frame. Basically,
quite a big range.
Yeah. So from the time that Ed spoke to her about the boat to when she was found.
I also feel like semen stains like on your bed like aren't,
that's not, yeah,
you know what I'm saying, especially because like if you hadn't washed your sheets yet and like you're married and you have sex before your husband leaves, like I'm sure if you tested our bed right now there'd be
exactly exactly. So you're like, there's
like, what's it gonna in there.
So while police are investigating Ellen's life and trying to find any possible motives, they do discover something pretty big, which is that Ed had a secret life. So
it's not what you want to find.
Nope, not off to a good start here, Ed. So he had a girlfriend near the community college where he worked, and they had been together for 7 years. So this isn't just a mild little fling.
That's a long time.
Yeah. So this was shocking to a lot of people that knew the Shermans, but Ellen and Lynn were close friends, and Lynn told investigators that Ellen actually knew about his girlfriend, Nancy. So they had this open marriage going on.
I have another funny story. Can I do another side note?
Yes.
I just remembered.
Please do.
Okay, so last night Kevin and I went out and
you slept with someone
else. We were
else.
about to leave. No. We were about to leave and we're waiting online for the bathroom. And so this girl comes out and she like looks at Kevin and she was like, I have a friend who's a ginger. Like, I love that journey for you. And was like getting really close to him. And Kevin was just like, okay. And then she notices his wedding ring. And then she was like, I have a question for you. I saw a TikTok that swingers wear black wedding rings. Is that true? And he was like, no.
Oh my gosh.
No. And then he like looked at me and I was like, it's just his tester ring to see if he loses it before we buy him a real one. And she was like, us women are smart. And I'm like, you were definitely trying to sleep with Kevin. And then you noticed he was married and then you just tried to make it
like
work.
I'm trying to backtrack this and see how I can get myself out of this.
I was like, there can't be another swinger symbol because then everything in life is going to be a swinger symbol. It's pineapples. Yeah. It's upside down pineapples. It's stars on your houses. I can't do anything.
You can't have too many because then, like you said, how are you supposed to know? There's no good way to. Yeah. Oh boy.
I thought it was so funny that she was like, I saw a TikTok that black wedding rings means you're a swinger. Like, what?
I think you just made that up, honey. I think unless that's a thing. Yeah. Let us know if you guys have heard of that. If that's
maybe it's a thing and I'm going to have to buy Kevin a new ring, but maybe I've seen a lot of men with black rings. Yeah. Like it's a trend.
Especially because like you said, it's like the rubbery ones that like are cheap. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of men that do like manual labor that like, you know, or like Andrew, when he worked on electronics, like he couldn't wear his like metal ring because it would like blow him up if he like touched something.
They
or
also
whatever.
have, I don't know what metal material it is, but like I know Forrest ring, I think it was titanium, but it was like black. Like it was an actual metal ring, but it was black. Yeah. So it's like, this isn't like what, girl? What?
Yeah, she was shooting her shot and then she was backtracking. She's trying to figure it out. Yeah.
But guess what, honey? He came home with me.
So, well, Ed did not always come home to Ellen. So
okay.
So like I said, they did have an open marriage and Ellen had boyfriends before as well. And Nancy was not Ed's first girlfriend. So this is just a thing that they are both consenting
if
to.
That is how you define your relationship and both are consenting or happy. No judgment here.
As long as everyone is on board. Yes. Ellen had actually confronted Nancy before and told her that she didn't mind if she and Ed were together because she knew that she, Ellen, and their daughter came first. So she's like, I don't care if, you know, Ed sleeps with you and you do your thing or whatever, because like I'm still.
But at the end of the day, I'm number one.
Exactly. Yeah. And she's like, I know that. So it's fine. But the big thing that they disagreed on was that Ellen wanted more children and Ed didn't. And Ellen had actually gotten pregnant a second time, but did have an abortion at Ed's insistence. So he's like, I just want the one kid. I don't want any more kids. Mm-hmm. But then police find out that 2 years before her murder, Ellen and Ed started running into some problems with their open marriage when she learned that Nancy was pregnant.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
I think
Nancy,
that's breaking a rule
yep,
in your open
they
marriage.
had they had their list of things they were okay with. This was not on them.
Mm-mm.
So Nancy was going to keep the baby, and Ellen told Ed that she didn't mind if he continued his other life with Nancy and their baby, but now she wanted a second baby as well. So now she's putting some more rules in.
Bargaining
Yep,
tool.
she's like, okay, if you want to be with Nancy and your other kid, that's fine, but I want the second baby that I've always wanted. And she told
Mm-hmm.
him that she would taking care of the child. Like he can do whatever he wanted. She's like, just I need your sperm to make this baby, and you can live your life, and it'll be fine. So Ellen did quickly get pregnant, but then in June of 1986, when she was about 3 months pregnant, she told Ed that she changed her mind. And she's like, I want to have a traditional family, and you're going to have to choose between me and Nancy. So Ed would not make a decision. So Ellen kicked him out, and he did live on a friend's sailboat while thinking through what his choices were, what he wanted to do. And 3 weeks later, he did decide to break things off with Nancy. So around this time, Ellen was also considering selling their business, and she told friends that she was thinking of splitting up with Ed. I think she's reached a point where she's like, there's too much. I don't think this is
Mm-hmm.
going to work here. So obviously, as always, Ed is a prime suspect in Ellen's murder, but he was on a sailboat with 4 other people during her estimated time of death. So police are like, we don't really have anything to go off of. Like, we think you have something to do with this, but like, I don't know. So they speculated that maybe he hired someone to kill Ellen. So they're like, we're going to keep looking into your life, investigating you. They actually asked his friend Lynn to keep up relationship with him so that he could like share any information that Ed may tell him. So he's kind of like working with the police and like, oh yeah, like I'll keep hanging out with you and like remembering all these little things that you say so I can talk to the police about it.
Yeah.
So Ed did move in with Nancy a few weeks after Ellen's death. So he just scooped on out of this bed and into that one and sent his older daughter to live with Ellen's parents. So, yeah, that's not okay. He did decide to not sell their business because remember, Ellen had been thinking about selling it. So he's like, I'm not going to sell the business, but he did hire more people to make it more profitable. And about 6 months after Ellen's death, he also inherited about $250,000 from Ellen's assets and her life insurance policy.
That's in the 80s. That's a lot
Yeah.
of money.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Plus whatever money is in like their business that they own
their
together.
business that he's
that she pretty much ran, as everyone said. So as they continue interviewing witnesses, police finally get some helpful information. So Roger Peterson, remember the guy that picked Ed up the night they went on the sailing trip. So he told police that he didn't see Ellen the night he picked Ed up. But then a couple of years after her murder, like when he's talking to Ed, Ed keeps bringing up that night. And he's like, yeah, I remember like she was in the shower. Like, that's what I told you when I got in the car. You know, that's why she didn't come out to say hi. And he's like, you know, I think you saw her like in the bathroom window. Like, I think she kind of like waved. And Roger's like, no, I don't remember this actually. So yeah. So Roger's like really insistent that he's like, I did not see her. He's like, I feel really odd about this encounter. So he's telling police about this. And then police speak with someone who had seen Ed at a video rental store the week before Ellen's murder. And this friend said that Ed had recommended the movie Blackout to her because he had just finished watching it. So if you've not seen the movie Blackout, which I have not, I don't know, Courtney, if you have. Okay.
No, I don't think I've heard of it.
Yeah, me neither. But in the movie, a man murders his family and then turns the air conditioning up really high to slow the body decomposition to make investigators think that they were killed later than they really were. We got some pieces fitting together here.
Ding, 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 ding,
Yeah.
ding, ding.
So the investigators are now remembering how Lynn mentioned that the Sherman's bedroom had been really cold when he found Ellen's body because they had a window unit and then the door was shut. So basically it's just like frigid in there. So 5 years after Helen's murder, Courtney, I'm finally coming back around to your question. So 5 years after Ellen's murder, Henry McDuff, remember the men were at his house the night that Ed called Ellen about the boat. Okay. So Henry and his family are like talking about Ellen's murder and like Ed's alibi and the fact that like he was at their house that night and then he was on the sailing trip with him. So like it couldn't have been him. Like I don't understand how people are still thinking that Ed had anything to do with it. Like I was right there. Well, then Henry's daughter says that that night she went to use the phone and Ed was on the phone with Ellen. And like she didn't realize that. So she like picked up the other receiver, didn't realize that Ed was on the phone, but the phone was just ringing and he was talking away like he was talking to someone.
Okay.
So, yes.
Yeah. So that's what I was wondering because I was like, like he called her and he could say, yeah, I spoke to her, but like,
but see, like the men were in the
proof?
room, so they heard like a back and forth conversation, but he was talking to himself. So,
to himself. Yeah. Which I'm like, there's so much of this. I'm like, Ed, like, why did you keep pushing Roger about how he saw Ellen that night when he could have just been like, I didn't see her, and that's normal because you just came outside and got into my truck, and then we're not going to think anything else of it. But now you keep pushing, so now it's weird.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, but I think Ed knew that like police are on him this whole time, so he's like, I gotta try to like strengthen my alibi. Yeah. But then this information comes forward with Henry's daughter, and so now they're like, okay, now we really have enough to like. There's enough circumstantial evidence. Yes. I'm like, Courtney,
what is why did I keep? Well, I kept saying reasonable doubt, and I was like, "That's not the one."
I was like, "See," but I couldn't think of what the word. So there's finally enough circumstantial evidence for them to arrest Ed. So he did go to trial in October of 1991. He did have to sell their graphic design business to afford a good defense attorney. And so forensic expert Dr. Henry Lee testified that there was no sign of sexual assault, but that she had been strangled with her underwear. And he said that the cold temperature of the room was not taken into effect when determining the cause of death, and that the AC being turned on so high with the door shut would have affected the rate of decomposition and thrown off their earlier estimates. So they're like, yeah, she was probably killed prior to 10 p.m. on Friday when we originally thought.
Which is just like 80s police work of like not putting shit together.
Exactly. And so after her body was discovered, the bedroom door was open. So while the AC was still running, it didn't like maintain that super cold temperature. So like Lynn mentioned how cold it was, but it wasn't something that like by the time investigators got there, they like put the pieces together.
Yeah.
So the friend that Ed had spoken to about the movie Blackout testified about their conversation, and parts of the movie were actually shown to the jury so they could see like, this is what Ed watched the week before his wife was murdered. So the prosecution did attempt to bring up Ed's previous history of domestic violence, but the judge would not allow it because it was too prejudicial. So Nancy had called the police before Ellen's death because Ed got angry and kicked her in the face.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But after police arrived, Nancy wouldn't cooperate, so no charges were filed. However, Nancy did move out right before Ed's trial started, and she did testify for the prosecution. So she's like, okay, this is not on your side anymore here, bud. So she did discuss her relationship with Ed and the conversations that she had with Ellen, just how we know what we said in the beginning about their conversations of I'm number one, so it's okay. So she did testify about all of that. So on February 7th, 1992, Ed Sherman was found guilty of murder after the jury deliberated for 4 days. He was sentenced to 50 years in prison, but he did die of a heart attack 2 years later. So that karma just came for him really quick.
Do you know how old he was when he died?
Well, let's see. So it was his 42nd birthday.
So he was like in his 50s. So
1985 was his 42nd birthday. So when he was sentenced in...
So he died in 94.
Yeah. So young.
So yeah. Pretty young
to
like be having a heart
just
attack.
Like die of a random heart attack. But yeah, so that is the murder of Ellen Sherman with all of the twists and turns into their open relationship and Nancy and the kids and all. And I do want to say too, the death of Ellen and her unborn baby. So yeah.
So sad. That's just crazy.
And it's like we talked about many times, there's ways to get out of your relationship. You don't have to murder them. You don't have to murder them.
And she was giving you a choice too. It wasn't like she was like you could have said, I want to go with Nancy or whatever. And she would have been like, she would probably been like, okay,
yeah,
go, we'll get a divorce, which he probably didn't want because I'm assuming if he only worked part-time in the business that he really wasn't doing anything. I mean,
yeah, she was the breadwinner for sure.
Living. Yeah. So he's probably just living off of like her successes. So it's just like, why? Don't kill your spouse. Don't kill your spouse.
No, definitely not. Not a good idea. Yeah, so that was this espressode. Courtney, what is your perk of the week?
So my perk of the week is last week I told you guys about the cookout I went to. It did go well. Everything went well.
Did not jinx
And
it.
while I was did not jinx it. And while I was there, I already kind of wanted to do this. And then, just a little tip to the scale got there. I bought tickets to Music Midtown in Atlanta for
Oh,
September.
fun.
I've never been to a music festival. So it'll be my first
Yeah,
festival. And Phoebe Bridgers will be there. So, it's a big
of
selling point.
course.
And there's a bunch of bands that like Kevin likes, like A Day to Remember, My
Hmm.
Chemical Romance is going to be there, Fall Out Boy, stuff like that.
Oh,
So
fun.
kind of stuff for both of us.
Hmm.
And just fun to go to a festival where, I've never been to one and get to see all these bands. And I was like, but think about, because I was like, Kevin, think about it. Like the tickets are like $180, but we spent like $70 just to see Phoebe
Yeah,
like
exactly.
2 years ago. So
Yeah.
I was like, a 2-day event, like we can make it work.
Yeah.
So bought tickets to Music Midtown. I'm very excited. So
Nice.
hopefully in a few months, you guys will hear my perk of the week and that nothing bad happened to me while I was there.
Don't put that out there into the
Don't
universe,
put that
please.
out there. Hopefully, I don't get trampled
Oh
at a
God.
festival.
Ugh.
But yeah, so that is my perk of the week. Jaclyn, what is your perk of the week?
So my perk of the week is the TV show Friday Night Lights. So it is an older show, but I am just now watching it for the first time. I'm pretty sure we talked before about our podcast friends over with Total Betty Podcast Network. So we've, been on their show with them before, but they do like a weekly it's like a recap podcast and then they like have different segments
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. So they focus on like teen dramas. So this is their fourth show. So they're doing Friday Night Lights. So I've never seen it before. So I'm actually like watching along with them. So they have like one of them has seen it before and the other hasn't. So like each week they like watch
Mm-hmm.
and discuss. So yeah, so I've been watching that and we're like halfway through season 2. And so it's like, you finally reach that point where it's like you're really invested in like the characters and,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like anytime you start a new show, it's like it takes you a minute to get into it. So yeah, so I've really been enjoying that and very different from, how we usually just binge shows now where it's like I'll just watch everything at once. And I'm like, oh no, I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually only watching one episode per week. So I like stay on track with them and so yeah, so it's been, and I haven't been watching a lot of
Yeah.
TV because I have a toddler and so it's very busy. And then I try to read and do podcast research after she goes to bed. So that's like my pretty much the only TV I watch for the week.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. No, I feel that I've actually been really behind on my TV, but now because there's basically not that many sports on besides
mhm.
like baseball, every night Kevin just like hands me the remote. So I'm getting behind on my
Oh.
reading because I'm like, I can watch my TV show. I can catch up on my TV show. Um, so um, but yeah, I've been listening to their Tree Hill talk. So I'm trying to get through
Mm-hmm.
that
Yep.
one. And then I think I'm gonna listen to the Gossip Girls one.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought about watching, I've never seen the OC. So I thought about watching the
Yeah.
OC and like
Doing together.
listening
Mm-hmm.
like that. So, but that'll probably be years from now because I've got a lot of podcasts I'm listening to. And I mean, Tree Hill Talk is like a long too, because I mean, that's 9 seasons of a show.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's a very long podcast. Yeah. So maybe in like 3 years, Courtney's perk of the week will be that she's also, because you've never seen Friday Night Lights, right? Okay. So
mm.
maybe 3 years from now, Courtney will watch Friday Night Lights and let you know that she
Yeah. So
likes it
maybe
too.
I'll jump on that. Yeah. It'll be a while, but
It's different. Like it's a
yeah.
different type of like it's I don't know how to explain it. Like it's not it's like the camera work is like shaky and like it has weird like zoom in. Like it's not like a
So
production
it's,
kind of
yeah, they're
thing.
trying to make it almost like a documentary kind of thing.
Sorta,
Like,
yeah, but it's not like The Office where they like address the camera or anything, it's but
yeah.
yeah, it's an interesting, I don't know what the exact like thing behind it is. And I guess some of the actors also have a rewatch podcast, which everyone is doing now for all their shows, which I do enjoy no matter how cliche it is. I do like listening to them.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to listen to it yet because they do give spoilers. So I got to wait till I finish the whole series.
All
But
of it and then go listen to
yeah,
that.
but they do
So,
say on the pod that it's a good one. So if you like Friday Night Lights, go check out both of those. Talking Texas Forever is the one that I'm talking about with the rewatch girls, and I don't know the name of the one that the actual actors have, but I'm sure you can find it
yeah,
if you
I
look it
know.
up.
Yeah, because I know New Girl has like a
Mm-hmm.
rewatch podcast, and I know Boy Meets World just came out with
Yep.
one too, and so I'm like, I heard it's really good, but I'm also like, how many rewatch podcasts can I listen to?
Yeah. That is
One
that
of
is
them's got to
the
end
thing right
before I
now
add
for
another
sure.
one. I know it's very hot. But if you want to tell us about your festival experiences, if you have any tips for me, because it's my first one, if you want to tell us what festivals you're going to, what TV shows you're watching, what rewatch podcasts you're listening to, any of that, you can do so on Instagram at Caffeinated Crimes Pod, on Twitter at Caff Crimes Pod, that's CAFF Crimes Pod, on Facebook at Caffeinated Crimes Podcast. We're on YouTube and TikTok as well. Caffeinated Crimes Podcast. You can find
You
us.
know.
You can send us a good old fashioned email at caffeinatedcrimespod@gmail.com. And if you feel so inclined and you want a little bonus extra content, if this espresso that we made into a long sode isn't enough for you and you want a bunch of bonuses, last week's episode was up there, unedited video. Google Hangouts, which we are doing until the end of summer, that everyone can join. I don't know. We got a bunch of shit over there. Discord. You can do so at patreon.com/caffeinatedcrimes.
Yes. Yes. And as always, we greatly appreciate your Apple Podcast reviews, your Spotify reviews, ratings on, wherever. If there's somewhere that you can say these people are great, do it. We love it. We love to see it. Helps us get noticed more and bumped up the charts and all those things. So definitely a great way to help out the show if you're able to.
Yeah. And thank you to all the people I've seen where I see people that I went to high school with go, what podcast should I listen to? And then they mention us because it makes my heart warm and fuzzy.
So nice.
But in the meantime, go have a cup of coffee.
And don't commit a crime.